Here to present our In Memoriam Award, please welcome the co-founder of University Games and the producer, co-writer of The Fun Factory, a musical about Rich, Spud, Whammo, and their iconic toys. Please welcome Bob Moog.
Good evening. Tonight, we honor two extraordinary men who serve as a great example of what the toy industry is when it is at its best. Richard Nurr, known as Rich, and Arthur Millen, fondly known as Spud, were USC students when they founded Whammo in 1948 as a sporting goods company selling slingshots. While they were prolific inventors with hundreds of products, they are actually best known for the market introduction of an incomparable string of huge national hits, starting with the Frisbee and then followed up the next year with the hula hoop in 1958, which sold millions of units in about 5 months and almost bankrupted the company because they over-manufactured, a problem most of us involved in manufacturing are used to. It became the most iconic fad of the 20th century. They quickly followed with Silly String, Slip and Slide, Instant Fish, and the Super Ball in 1968. A lot of people don't know this, but the Super Bowl was actually inspired by the Super Ball. In 1965, there was an article I found, it's a very rare article, in Time magazine where Rich was asked, "What was your secret? How did you come up with this incredible string of products?" And he answered, "We watched the kids, not the toy." No, I'm kidding, he didn't say that. Dan Klitzner came up with that, but I thought it was so good that it would have been a good thing for Rich to have said. In the end, Whammo was sold to Kransco in the early 1980s after 36 years of leadership from Spud and Rich. Rich ran sales, and he was the face of the company. He always had a smile on his face and a quick handshake or hug as a greeting. He wore a Hawaiian shirt every day at a time when the concept of Casual Friday was still decades away. And he was a great prankster, and he would have loved tonight because he loved a great story and always had a good story to tell. Spud, on the other hand, oversaw product development and was a little more introverted. They treated their staff like family, and they worked hard to have a high level of morale and loyalty that all of us, in a company that all of us would have raced to join. Spud passed away in 2002 and Rich followed in 2008, but their contributions to all of us live on every day. And let's talk about those contributions briefly. It wasn't really as inventors that they shined, although they invented plenty of products, but it was as innovators. Rich and Spud were early pioneers of making plastic toys. The duo were manufacturing geniuses, setting up efficient early operations in Southern California that today Chinese factories would be envious of. In marketing, they especially excelled. They sponsored TV shows, appeared on the cover of Life magazine several times, and Rich led happenings, you saw some pictures of those earlier, on beaches and parks around the country. They were amazing at getting people together, and they really were, they didn't use the term, but they were early crowdsourcing experts. The toys that they did were so special that they transcended the industry, creating new sports like Frisbee golf and Ultimate Frisbee that are now played on hundreds of college campuses and around the country. They really made a difference as toy inventors. They also, along with the Elliot and Ruth Handler of Mattel, defined what the West Coast toy industry was all about. And they focused on fun first and affectionately called their company The Fun Factory. For me, this is a especially touching tribute because when I founded University Games on April 1st, 1985, my motto was Whammo, and I didn't know the names Millen and Nurr at the time, but I knew I loved Whammo's toys, and I knew it had been started by two good friends, and I wanted to do the same thing. And for me tonight, it's just an enormous pleasure, and I hope you'll join me in honoring this award for Rich Nurr and Spud Millen, which is going to be received by Rich's son, Chuck. Thank you all. Here's Chuck.
Thanks. Bob, I appreciate that introduction, and it's just so moving to see Dad and Spud up on the screen there. You know, they've been gone a little while, but there isn't a day I don't think of picking up the phone to call them. Still, they were just the greatest two men I've ever known. Great marketers and just great all-around people. And fun was what I learned from them foremost, I'd say. Their motto was, you know, more fun from Whammo. It's sad that hasn't been the case since they sold the company, but they just had a real way about them. You'd love to be with them. They just drew a crowd wherever they were. And it was a wonderful time. You know, it's funny, today it's hard to conceive of bringing a product to market that was essentially a piece of plastic or a chunk of rubber. They're just unbelievable that they could find things that were so, I don't know, basic and that fulfilled. I come from a generation where all we heard all day long from mom or dad was, go outside and play. And I don't know, I think we've lost a lot of that because there's so much fun that can be programmed into a chip. But I think there's something special when the child himself is part of the toy, and when toys bring children together to play together amongst themselves. And I just love when that happens. And there's still great products today. I mean, I've gone through 2 kids myself. Now I've got 2 grandkids. There's nothing more fun. I lost that fun when my kids grew up. I really miss going to the toy store. You want to, delighting your kids is the joy of every parent. And now I get to go through it again with grandkids. So thanks for this award. And I'm sure Dad and Spud are smiling down. Heaven's a little more fun now that they're there. Thanks a lot.